Hello, and welcome to another episode of SoFly. It's October. My name is Mitch. This is Aldo.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing?
Smashing. How you doing?
I'm pretty good.
Yeah. Jays won last night, I saw.
Yes,
That's pretty cool. Who did they beat? The New York Yankees?
the Yankees lose.
Well, that's good. Everybody's posted about it on Instagram.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's an exciting time for the city.
Yep.
I know you're not much of a sports guy, but that's okay. Like, it's fun to
Have fun?
it's fun to have that energy.
Sure.
In the city, people honking their horns and hanging out. But hey, speaking of winning,
Yeah.
on our last episode, our 200th episode,
200. Episode 200.
we
It's winning time.
said we'd give away a pair of Costa sunglasses.
They're nice
How
shades.
people- Yeah, nice shades. The Antilles. Look, I got them right here. If you're watching on YouTube.
Made of recycled fishing nets and line and stuff.
Yeah, they're from the Untangled collection. Yeah, which is awesome.
Ooh.
I actually quite like them. I might have to get a pair myself.
Yeah. Yeah, you
I
should.
didn't realize how much I like them. But yeah, the Antilles, blue frames, gray lenses. We asked everybody to comment on our 200th episode on YouTube with their favorite SoFly
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah. Let's announce it at the end of the show. Because then people have to listen.
That's right, suckers.
We're gonna bait you.
So that's a great idea. So at the end of the show, we're gonna announce the winner.
Yeah.
But thanks everybody for commenting, and obviously we got a lot of love on episode 200, and so
It's the episode in
it's-
which a winner is announced. Wow.
it's much appreciated. Mitch,
Yeah.
you moved. You're in Ottawa. I'm looking at you, and you are in Ottawa.
Yeah, I got a different background. I got to dial in the setup because right now it just looks like a stock spare bedroom. But yeah, I'm out of the city now. That's why I don't care about the Jays because I'm not in Toronto anymore. You have to be in Toronto, otherwise it doesn't matter.
That is the rule. I guess so. You're a Sens fan now?
Big time, yeah, diehard, yeah. I think they're going to win it this year. They're doing really well.
I mean, hockey did just start, but this is not the sports podcast. It's a fly fishing podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Let's start off with some news, and then we're going to kick it off into the main part of the show, which is a good show. This week we've got Ian Troup on the show. And Ian, we went fishing with him, did some stillwater fishing, got like a crash course on stillwater trout fishing up at the Franklin Club. And the Franklin Club, obviously, I'm sure if you're from Southern Ontario, you know of it. It's a pretty iconic fly fishing club. Really cool trout ponds and actually basically a pretty big lake. Awesome place to spend an afternoon. We got to go fish there in the morning. So we recorded a show live on the premises, and that's what this episode is going to be all about. But before we get into that, why don't we kick it off with some news?
Yes. It seems like things are starting to pick up in terms of events and things to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with Ontario streams. I think if people listen to the last episode, we said now that Mitch is in Ottawa, he's going to handle the Ottawa-based news, and I'm going to handle the Southern Ontario news.
Yeah.
Which is great. But I'm going to start with Ontario streams. They've got a few litter cleanup events. Saturday, October 18th in Brampton at Bagwell Valley. There's a West Humber litter cleanup. On Saturday, October 25th, I will be there at the Etobicoke Creek litter cleanup event. You can go to ontariostreams.on.ca, get involved link.
Yep.
Which we can put in the show notes, and just to register. So register for the volunteer day, come out, clean up some trash. It's from 10 a.m. Both days are from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., which is great. Give back a little bit, clean up some trash, have some coffee, meet some people. It's going to be a good day. It's going to be an awesome day. So those, the 18th and the 25th of October.
Nice.
Drift's stuff is all sold out, so there's not really much to talk about, but they did have a lot of classes, and I'm sure they'll have more, so keep an eye out there. They do have, on Saturday, October 25th, same day as the litter cleanup, a beginner break-even fly tying lesson.
Yeah.
But there's also one Saturday, November the 1st at 1 p.m.
Huh. Oh.
So, so there's two, if you go to driftoutfitters.com, and go to lessons and events. You can see all their lessons and events, but they're all sold out except for that one, which is cool. So they're obviously popular. So when they come up, sign up. It's good stuff. They've got good instructors. Not just people that work there, but friends like Ian Troup do classes.
Friends like
there.
Mr. Troup.
Mitch, what's going on in Ottawa, buddy?
A couple different things going on the Auto Fly Fisher. 17th to the 19th. There's a Bing Retreat fishing weekend, but it's full, so you can't go. No, you can't. You could go on the side. Contact Bing Retreat. If you're in Ottawa area and you haven't fished a Bing Retreat, you should. It's fun. And I haven't fished there in a long time, but I remember it not being all too expensive either. It's a private little lake, so you got to pay the owner to go fish it, but you bob around. You actually still water fish for trout, which is quite fitting for this show. The outing's full through the club, the Auto Fly Fishers, but you can go. Just hit up the Bing side on the side and see if they've got a space for you. And the 21st, also, they have a fly tying and drop-in kind of thing at the Champlain Fieldhouse, which is kind of cool. I'm not going to be here. Otherwise, I totally would drop in, but stay tuned for some November ones, because I'll be back here fully in November, and I think I'm going to have to drop into a fly tying at the Champlain Fieldhouse. Stay tuned for more events from Ottawa Fly Fish. So I'm sure there's going to be more. They had a bunch in October, but this being the 15th now, 17th to 19th Bing Retreat, 21st Fieldhouse, dropping, fly tying thing. Shall we get into the main part of the show?
I think so. I'm excited. It's a deep dive into Stillwater.
It is. We so once in a while we go a little crazy on the tips and tactics. It's rare for this show, like we've said. It's never been our thing, but this episode definitely was, and it was great because I think it's a big mystery. Stillwater fishing for a lot of people. Stillwater trout fishing, especially. This definitely demystifies it. Ian's going to break it down for you. Going to tell you how to find the fish and then how to catch them. Right after these words. Wow, where the heck are we right now, Aldo?
Wow, we're at the Franklin Club, baby. We're in I want to say the pool table room.
Yeah, what a cool place, the Franklin Club. Who are we with? Who do we got here?
You've got Ian Troup. We've met before.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm a club pro here. Been here for about 12 years. Yep. And you know me from my probably previous time together where I also do some guiding.
Love it. Ian, so nice to be back on the water with you today. Thank you for having us up here at the Franklin Club for a fish.
Yeah, we had a bit of a fun morning, I think.
It was a very fun morning. It's a beautiful day. It's October, and things are a little unseasonable, I would say. It's
30 degrees unseasonable.
Yeah. 30 degrees, sunny, very, very warm. But, yeah, we had a great morning. We are very stoked to talk because, like I said, I've known about the Franklin Club since I was just a young buck. It's been around a long time.
Big time, yeah. Sorry, I was just digging my phone because when you said, you might know me from the SoFly podcast, which of course is true.
Yeah.
Episode 26.
Wow.
And this is episode 201.
Wow.
26? Doesn't feel like it was that long ago.
I know, but it is.
God, it really is.
We all have beards.
And we did a float too, and you said that was 2018? Something like that?
I know.
2019?
Well, 2018 was the podcast, and then we've done a couple floats.
We've done a couple. We've spent some quality time together.
Yeah.
This is our first time Stillwater fishing together, though, and it was fun.
Well, we're going to get into the Stillwater thing today because that I think it's a really interesting topic, and it's a kind of a question mark for a lot of people, like how to do it. A lot of mysteries surrounding Stillwater techniques. But maybe before we get into that, can you tell us a little bit about the Franklin Club and kind of like what the deal is here?
Yeah, sure. So, Franklin Club is a private club. So it's in East Gwillimbury. I always kind of say that wrong. And so I'm not sure the total number of members, but it's I would say it's a smaller club with more of a kind of family atmosphere. Yep. Three lakes. I'd say one we would call a lake, two maybe call more ponds, spring-fed ponds. So from a temperature perspective, it's quite suitable for trout. And I think what's unique about the Franklin Club is they have their own hatchery. Yep. So they stock their own fish. They have their own strain, and they're using a new strain as well. Just got the numbers in. They stock about 10,000 trout a year. That's a lot of trout. The fishing can be excellent. And as we saw today, there's some really, really big ones. So it's really good for teaching kids. Yeah. And it's got more of I would say, a family atmosphere to it. And I've been fortunate enough here to be a club pro for about 12 plus years, and that's a unique thing as well. So they have on staff club pros, so a little bit maybe more like a tennis club or something like that.
Right.
But they're really focused on education. So we run everything's kind of included for members and things along those lines. Cool. So it works out pretty cool. And I think it's about 200 acres there. So it's a
big.
So
it's
a lot of people
beautiful
also
ground.
don't just fish. They go for walks. As we saw, the leaves are turning.
Hike
There's
around.
campsites.
Yeah.
So it's trout fishing, trout club with a family kind of.
It's so cool that you can camp here, you can stay here. Like, I think that's really neat. And, you touched on education. Like, Demisha with Brown Girl Outdoor World works with the York Regional District School Board, and they partner with the Franklin Club to give with the outdoor ed program.
Yep.
And they do their fishing days to teach kids about fishing here, which I think is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
perfect.
It works really well. There's corporate events, but the education events are really cool, and that's what I like about what I'm passionate about is education and what people here want to learn. It's a great place to learn, and as you saw, it's a lot of fun too. So, it's a pretty cool place, and you wouldn't think you're this close to downtown Toronto.
Yeah,
which I find.
I know it's so close, 50 minutes this morning.
And where you're feeling like you're not.
No, you feel
that
out
close
there.
to Toronto, right? So
also the main the main lake is like bigger than I thought, and it's lakey. It's not like it doesn't feel like
you didn't see the whole thing either.
No, it kind of like loops back.
There's like 15 boats can launch on it, so it's bigger than you think. Yeah. So and then fantastic fishing, which makes it great to be here, but also great for, as I said, it travels well. You can learn a lot here. Right?
Yeah.
So.
Totally. I mean, you are a club pro because if people have not listened to episode 26, which they definitely should, you're part of Team Canada.
Correct. That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I've been lucky enough to represent Team Canada internationally for quite a while now, and fishing on the world team quite a few times. So picked up a few tips from international fishing. So I think what I bring here, and what's kind of neat about the club pros is they all kind of bring something different. Mm-hmm. So again, whether you like competitions or not, I would say there's something to be learned from competition. Mm-hmm. It kind of spawns innovation.
Yeah.
And so we can learn a lot of things that just help people better at fishing. But we have kind of one of the pros is an expert in. He's a competitive caster.
Right.
And then we've got a woman who's kind of very well rounded. Kind of brings a lot to the table. And we've got from quite famous Sheldon Seal, if you know that name. He's quite famous in the fly fishing world and writing articles. And he brings a real, I find that, trouty technical perspective.
Yep. Right.
And then, we've got Dave Forge on here as well. And he brought kind of a mix of all kinds of different perspectives, also fishing for Team Canada. So what I like, there's kind of a pro for everybody, but I would say what I bring is that international experience here. And it's been well received. So,
yeah. I always say, like, you might not like fine dining, but it has its place in innovation.
Right.
So, I think
competitive angling.
like a competitive angling.
Yeah, and I also say I understand how some people that's not for them. I also equate it to surfing. I think trout fishing is like there's trout bums and there's surf bums. Like there's people who will just live in a van and there's two types of surfers. There's the ones who want to do competitive surfing and there's the free surfers.
Totally,
and they both have their place, and and I don't think. It's whatever you enjoy, right? So
yeah, for sure. I mean, you're a heck of an angler. Just like looking at your setups this morning, it's like, damn, you are dialed, chef. Yeah. So it's pretty cool to fish.
I've got a lot of stuff, right?
God,
but one thing you get exposure to is some of the best lake anglers in the world and stillwater anglers in the world, and like from the UK, from you get them. Australia's got some great ones, and in some of the European countries as well. So there's constantly learning all the stuff we now know, but we didn't know before. And I was telling you guys on the boat today, this stuff travels well. It's still a trout.
Yep.
It's still in Stillwater.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, I like to fish in Muskoka. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it'll probably apply.
Like we go all over. Like we pack up the same bags, the same flies, and the techniques. And I think what's really cool is innovating techniques. And we were talking a little bit like the bass fishing guys too.
Yeah.
We kind of equate to them. They have multiple techniques. But those techniques travel well.
So some of the techniques we'll talk about today in the show, these are things you can apply to lakes kind of wherever you are.
I mean,
is a lake, a trout is a trout.
I feel like if we did this before we went to Blue Fox, we would have had a little more in the arsenal.
Yeah.
And this is a phenomenal training ground to practice it because there's still trout. Yeah, there's a lot of them, so we saw it today. It doesn't mean it's necessarily easy, and there are techniques that will outfish another one, which is interesting. And it teaches
the fish are there, so it's not a question of like the fish just aren't eating or not there. Rather, it's
and we had to think. So it's
definitely
it's a thinking person's game, right? And I think stillwater fishing is a little more complex than river fishing. It just has a little more variables, but I think it makes you a better river angler as well. The more time you spend on stillwater, you don't have to be afraid of stillwaters. You just have to kind of think in a logical
something
way. And I'm sure we'll
intimidating.
talk through it today.
There's something intimidating about
Totally,
it for
it's
sure, but we'll definitely get into that.
Yeah, you can't. It's big and it's featureless.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah, you're
that's,
just
I think you get to
looking-
the edge and you're like, well, this doesn't. I can't see the seam. I can't see a rock over there.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
in some cases, I can't see the other side of the lake.
Yeah.
You know, Lake Ontario is still a lake,
Yeah.
right? You know, so
Good
that's
point.
you know, but it's the same concepts.
Yeah.
It's just bigger, right?
Yeah.
So-
Before we get into that, just a couple more questions about Franklin Club. Like, there's it's a full season thing. Like, you can fish here all year.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, so you can fish year round. So depending on the winters, if the lake freezes, the main lake, the ice huts, which is pretty cool.
That's cool. That's really
that's pretty
neat.
cool.
Yeah.
And so they set up ice holes. They you know,
Like you
so
said, so close to the city, it'd be kind of sick to just like leave the city like after work
chill
and ice
out.
fish. all
Yeah,
night.
and
That'd be
also
sick.
you have
That'd
a
be awesome.
nice lodge. You have a lodge with a fire going
Yeah.
5 minutes away.
Yeah.
Of a walk. I mean,
Pretty cool.
and then so there's a top pond that is spring fed and a bottom pond that's aerated.
Okay.
So those don't freeze. So they're open fishing year round.
And
so you can
bottom
fly
pond?
fish year round depending on you know how hardcore you want to be.
This will mean nothing for people listening, but Bottom Pond was that way, right? That was the way.
That's right.
And then
so
the main lake. And then
is almost like, if you think of it now, we're doing hand gestures, but there's a top
Yeah, totally.
pond
Yeah.
that is spring fed, stays like 50 degrees
Wow.
like year round,
Cool.
which is good in the winter. So it's the warmer one, and you know, beautiful in the summer for trout. And then that flows through into the main lake, and then there's an outflow into the lower. So they almost like. People listening, just think of like a cascading,
Yeah.
you know,
It's like a
cascading
long-
ponds kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a cold water flow that goes right through the middle of the,
Very cool.
which is pretty
Channel.
interesting. And so that, you know, temperature moderation, it's really good for trout, but also that moderation keeps some water open
Yeah.
in the winter.
Are all three the same? They're rainbows and brook trout, or is there one that's like?
So the
there's
top
more?
one is mainly brook trout,
Mainly brook.
and then you got rainbows and brook trout, and then the bottom one be rainbows and brook trout.
Cool.
We had one brook trout today,
Yeah.
but there's times when you can
And a
go-
bass.
and a mystery bass, you know.
Yeah.
So it's 30 degrees.
Has there ever been? Yeah, got a little bass. Has there ever been browns in these ponds?
Nope,
ever?
they've been thinking about it, but
Oh.
they haven't done browns.
Interesting.
So mainly brook trout and rainbows.
Browns on a lake like this would be kind of
Very
cool.
Scott, it'd be pretty cool.
Would be pretty cool, but man, like
Because what's
those rainbows
interesting
are
about
zippy.
beautiful. Yeah.
browns is they'll feed vertically, so brown will sit and come up.
Yeah.
Whereas a rainbow feeds horizontally.
Oh,
So we're much more
okay.
playing. So when you on still waters, you kind of read those books, and they're in Scotland, and they're kind of dabbling stuff on the surface. They're trying to pull browns from the bottom or from different levels, where a rainbow's less likely to do that. The rainbow's got to be kind of feeding at the surface to want to do that.
Maybe this is a nice way to get into Stillwater stuff. Like maybe
Sure.
we start talking about that now, because it's quite the world to unpack. I mean, even just spending a few hours with you this morning, it's like, oh right, this, like that, this. Like you start to unlock it in your brain. You're like, oh man, there's a lot of innovation that has taken place already. People have figured this out. So let's start with like what we were saying before. What is it about lakes, locks, ponds, Stillwater that makes people intimidated?
I think it's the fact that there's limited features at the first time you're looking at it.
It's like a
right?
big
so
pot of
it's a
water.
big flat body of water,
Yeah.
and depending on the size of it, can be intimidating just from sheer volume of water.
Right.
I think on the river comparable, when people go from a small creek to a big river, they
Yeah.
have the same kind of concept. But so the secret of stillwater fishing is a couple things. Is they're still trout are trout. They're still going to be looking for optimum water temperature. They want to be not, predation matters. They want to not die.
Yeah.
It's always a good day not to die for
Cover,
a trout.
away from light.
And then they're going to be in kind of the optimal place for temperature and food wherever they can. The difference in stillwater is the depth. So they can,
Right.
let's say our average river is, usually not over our heads. Let's go, so we're usually fishing.
Well, maybe not your head.
Yeah, maybe not my head. Okay,
Yeah, maybe
we'll
not
go over. But really, 5 feet,
sure.
6 feet,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. In some lakes you're 150 feet, stuff like that. But here,
And those fish can be anywhere in that water
yeah,
column.
but the first thing with stillwater fishing would be most of your trout are going to be in the top 10 feet, 15 feet.
Even
of
in
water.
like 100-foot lake.
If you think about
penetration.
light penetration,
Yeah.
so getting to the bottom of a lake, so it can penetrate, some scientists will tell them wrong, 10 to 15 feet or something like that. So vegetation, what does vegetation do? Bug growth,
Yep.
food. So not that they can't be in the middle of those lakes, but where would the food be?
Right.
Still in the top
Oh, that's so interesting because you're always like,
the only and the only thing that's different because we fish in Quebec and stuff like that.
right.
They'll always seek out optimal temperature.
Okay.
So if you get into like these are spring-fed lakes at the Franklin Club, which makes them kind of a gem for that piece. So in Quebec, as my example, those lakes get really hot, but they're really deep. So those fish will sit at like 30 feet on what's called a thermocline.
Yep.
And so that will be where the cold water meets so they'll sit at an optimal temperature. That has nothing to do with food. That's like, I have to live here.
Right.
So
I eat what I eat.
And those days are, that's not optimal fly fishing conditions, right? When that happens. But so water temperature being a big barometer.
But that would be mostly like something that would happen in the summer.
So
just don't fish.
Yeah. And so things you pay, so everything's like think of a river. So first of all, you're going to look for features. So one thing that I teach people is, okay, so there's 3 kind of rules to stillwater fishing, and we talk about it at the Franklin Club all the time.
Yeah.
So first of all, where are the fish? Park joke in the water. So they're in the water.
Right.
But location, they're
Smashing.
I know. Where the fish, they're in the water.
That's
so
a good start, though.
Step one. That's a good start. They're in the water, not in the
people sometimes forget that. You know,
they're
what I mean?
in the water. There are fish in that water.
They're there.
And then,
Trust
but
they're there.
the locations can have when I say major location changes by that, because it's very similar to think of a river. A pool versus a riffle versus a tail out versus a different section of the water. So first of all, and what's going to drive that decision of where you're going to have to use a little bit of trout logic. So first of all, when you look at a lake, and we'll pretend we don't have fish finders, is features carry into the lake, right? So if you see a flat bank that moves across, that's probably a bay. Yeah. If you see a steep bank coming down, that probably goes deeper. So what I teach people is just kind of step back and picture it a little bit with no water and go, okay, there's a peninsula going out there, or those are drop-offs, those are features, that's structure.
Right.
So fish like structure, right? And then, we get, not to get too complex, depending on the trout, brook trout like a certain type of structure a little more than a rainbow, right? So, but if there's a lot of wood and debris and stuff, well, that's brook trout land. And if we're fishing for rainbows, they tend to be in more open spaces, but they'll school up a little more and stuff like that.
Right.
So we go, okay. And then water temperature, what time of year is it? Is also what's the temperature of the water. So what confuses people is more lake stratification. So are the temperatures consistent throughout, right? So when the lake's got a temperature throughout, they could be at any depth they want to be from a temperature perspective. Yeah. And as you said, in the summer, so you kind of go, okay.
Do you guys ever measure the temps?
I do a little bit. I don't go crazy with it. I'll take a surface temp just to see what we're at.
Yeah.
So sometimes
it's a good indicator.
Yeah. And, kind of, especially when you get to a new lake, okay, what are we dealing with? Yeah. It's like 70 degrees on it while the fish are like 40 feet down. Let's go home. So here the water temps are pretty consistent, but, but you'll, so that's, number one is, okay, where are they going to be? So an example being it's early spring and the water temperature was cold. The ice just came out, right? So I'll ask you guys, we're, in a lake, where are you going to go first? You get to a new lake, it's ice out. You came here, you just fished it with me. Where would you go?
Where would I go? Probably, if it's ice out, I don't know, like
ice out just came out.
Well, I mean, to your point, look for structure maybe off of a point or something, but like, what are you going to, like right out in the middle kind of thing?
So I would go into a bay. Yeah. So try to find a shallow bay because that's going to warm up faster. So at this time of year, we're seeking, the trout are going to go, okay, I'm going to find a little closer to 55-degree water.
Right,
so
which will be closer to shore.
To those bays and stuff like that, or really still deep where the water temperature actually was warmer than where the ice was.
Right.
As an example. So you're like, but as that gets warmer, now that bay is too warm, I'm going to push out to those drop-offs. I'm going to start moving to some other areas. So you use a little bit of
one question on like the structure part. Like if you're going to go fish a new lake or something like that, are you looking at topo maps? Like,
for sure, if you get them,
that's the way to do it.
That's the way to do it.
Because otherwise, you're just going off visual, right?
Like, so the visual is one thing. It's good to kind of, but topographical maps also, like with trout like to. Again, general rule, like 10 to 15 feet, you go, okay, there's some, again, not that they can't be in those other places, but you get an idea of what's going on. Topographical maps are great. And some people use depth, like, fish finders, not to find fish, but to find drop-offs and stuff like that. They're super handy. We don't use them in competition, but there's a reason bass guys don't go out without, graphs and stuff. What are they doing? Graphing. They're trying to figure out get a sense of what if you're going to go to a lake for a trip, get topographical maps for sure. We're all over that in competition as well.
Topo maps, then water temp, which is influenced by time of year. The ice out thing,
yeah.
For sure,
So that's our first rules: where they fish, general area,
Yeah.
and again, these are general rules. But don't be afraid to make big location changes.
Yeah.
So, don't beat yourself up too much. What we did today is go, let's just try a new
area,
area, right? So then, I found an area I think has fish. The next critical question is, what depth are the fish at? Stillwater is a depth game.
Yeah.
So those fish move up and down all the time. Light penetration. Is there wind? Is there food? Stuff along those lines. So the number one reason people don't catch fish is they're not having their flies at the right depth.
Right.
So the big rule to kind of write down for everybody would be, how do I keep my flies at the right depth for as long as possible?
Yeah.
Now,
there's many ways.
and also
I think we can get to.
It's really hard to go, well, what depth are they at, right?
Yeah.
So that, and sometimes multiple, right? So,
Right.
but that's one people need to be thinking about. If you're not catching fish, are you fishing everything at the same depth?
Yeah.
And so I like to start top down. So let's try at the surface and work down. You could try a bottom up, but I like top down because trout have eyes on the top of their head. They're much more likely to move up for food than to move down for food. So, and just work your way down with techniques or whatever that means. And so before you're fishing, the Brits would say fishing on the deck, which is putting your flies right on the bottom, but but you're going to work your way through that. Now we can talk techniques to do that, but before we get to techniques, just okay, I've got a location. What depth are they at? Now, okay, well, I got the depth. What are they eating? Right, and so that might just be as simple as do they want the fly moved or they want it static? Are they eating?
Something natural versus something
so
flashy.
one thing for everybody is chironomids or buzzers. If you're from the UK, they're in every lake. They see them year round. They know what a buzzer is. They know what a chironomid is. They eat them all the time. So
because they're year-round chironomids.
Year-round. The different sizes, different colors, but they know what a chironomid is. 100%.
I mean, the Chan man's been preaching this his whole life.
Yeah. Brian Chan. Shout out Brian
you
Chan.
got chironomids. And then you go, okay, they're around year round. So, and then they're the only game in town in the winter.
Yeah.
So if I come here fish in February, I'm fishing little black natural flies because they're eating those because that's what they see.
Yeah.
Damsel flies are in almost every lake. So, everybody's got, green woolly bugger will work. Leeches, everybody uses leeches. Yeah. Because they know what a leech is.
Yeah.
And then we use some.
There's probably leeches around.
And then we do some stuff that's crazy, like,
some crazy stuff.
Bright flies, different flies, stuff that but so they don't always have to be that picky about it's something that looks like it could be food. They're probably going to eat it.
Totally.
So that's the where are the fish? Find the area of the lake. What depth are they? What are they eating, and how do I present the fly at kind of that depth in an optimal way? So that sounds complex. It's just rules of kind of like what we're doing on a river. Okay, are they on dries or in?
It's like where are they?
Where are they? They're over in that. I think they're in that tail out. Okay, they're probably eating. So it's and I tell everybody, there's no bad choices when you get to a lake. It's all information. Okay, so I tied something on. Sorry, it's not working. Okay, but that wasn't a bad choice.
No.
How would you know it's not going to work? But now you know it's not working.
Now you know it's not going to work.
Yeah, so I'm going to learn.
Rule
Doesn't mean,
stuff
and
out.
it's not working right now.
Yeah.
Right? So things are constantly changing. We had bright sun, no wind. That became wind. It changed, right? Now
Totally.
when clouds come up, fish were maybe, we'll say, are 6 feet down. Oh, clouds, now they're at 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like when we started,
it's just changing
sun
all the
wasn't
time.
up.
Yeah.
They were up higher.
They were up higher, and then we started.
There's lots of action on the surface. Yeah.
And then we stopped seeing that happen.
Boiling fish and stuff.
Until the wind kicked up. Yeah. So,
and they were like bright sun, no wind, tough.
Yeah.
Totally.
Right.
At least that's a consistent.
That's
thing.
a consistent thing everywhere. But that's so it's and then there's techniques to try to find what depth they're at. There's techniques to try to hold your flies as long as you can at, and there's different ways of moving and presenting the fly to get a response. Because it's like that's what Stillwater's all about.
Because the thing with like a river, it's like you pretty much every time you can be like, wow, look at that pool, and there's probably fish in there. You know what I mean? You know where to cast.
Yep.
That's where the fish are going to be.
Yeah.
In that pool, that looks good. But a lake, it's like, That's what I think. So the thing about using techniques and tactics to start ruling out those things You really have to put the time in to figure out
Yeah.
versus just like, well, there's a pool and start fishing.
No, and then also in your head, like number one, depth.
Depth, yeah.
Depth.
Yeah, depth.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
So like, you've tried 400 flies 3 feet down.
Yeah.
Well, if the fish are at 8 feet,
It doesn't matter what you're trying.
Exactly.
I could put
Yeah.
the world champion and not
Yeah.
let him fish. If he's fishing where there's no fish, he's not going to catch it.
They're not going to hit. Yeah.
And that's what amazes people. Like, so sometimes it's just the matter of waiting a little bit longer, going a little bit slower.
Yeah.
And the general rule is, start fast fishing, whether it be pulling or something like that, and then as it gets tougher, go slower, go smaller.
Yeah.
Right. But depth.
Yeah.
Like I can tell you, it's 90,
It's cool to
90%
know,
of
like-
it is finding the depth.
It's good to know, like, in the right time of year, when the water temperature is right, the fish, rainbow trout, let's say, are usually in a fishable depth. They're not at 40 feet,
Yeah,
like,
and why do people do the best in the spring and the fall? Because the water temperatures are consistent throughout.
right. So they're not
and the
thermocline.
food is kind of consistent throughout, so the fish are at all depths. So depth became less important
Yeah.
than it is as
Right.
it gets more technical.
Right.
There's
cool.
probably an optimal depth, but you kind of catch them at all
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
depths, right? And the fish are feeling good and they're feeding up, right? So it's kind of easier.
Well, I'm just thinking back to Stillwater moments where we weren't successful at all, and I'm like, well, it was like July, and the fish probably were like 50 feet down.
Yeah.
In a pod, tight together, and one
especially when you
spot
have
away.
fish finders, you start going,
Yeah.
oh, that's why.
Yeah. You're like, oh, there they are.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So because we've cast out like a very fast sinking line, and you're counting it down for minutes.
Yeah, because
Like,
you're really trying to get
you
it
have to
down
get-
like 30 feet.
Yeah, like you got to get to 30 feet. That takes a long time to
Oh,
get your
yeah.
flies down there. Like that
Just
is
with a
not
current.
optimal. So
For sure.
yeah,
Craziness.
Yeah.
So cool. Okay. Location, depth,
Temp.
temp, technique.
Well,
Yeah,
now
so-
it's into the
So
technique.
where are the fish? What depth? What are they eating? Then so then that's when technique's going to come in, right?
Okay.
And the where are the fish and what depth are driven by temperature and
Yeah.
conditions, right?
And so technique is something you can do to start
I'll give you one more thing just before we
Yeah.
move on.
Oh yeah, totally.
Wind.
number 4. Wind.
Wind.
Yeah.
Wind is a big deal. On
Yeah, you were
stillwaters.
talking a lot about
I
that.
love like you go from hating winds on
Yeah.
river to loving wind on Stillwater.
Why is this?
So wind. Why is this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
tell you
why?
I will
Please.
tell you why. So we Stillwater. We call it Stillwater for a reason. It's not still, but it is if there's no wind.
Yeah.
So wind is first of all current. So if wind pushes into a lake, it pushes
Pushing food around.
pushing food around. It pushes current. Fish like current.
Right.
They like facing into current because current brings food. It brings oxygen.
Yep.
So it'll bring fish to the surface.
Some cover.
And it is pushing food, current, everything they like. So a lot of when you look at a lake, it might help people to go for what we do, and not to get over. Take a look at the bankside vegetation. If it's all bent a certain way,
Yep.
that means the predominant wind
Is
blows that way.
Okay, so it tells you where to start
That's
because you want to
pretty
start.
cool.
You want to start upwind.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
Do you?
I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing.
You can. There's no bad choice.
I'm fishing in the middle of the lake during ice out, brother. I don't know what's
So wind is
Yeah.
wind is also pushing and changing the temperature.
Yeah.
So it can, and then the lakes, like, not to get super technical, you go to a point called turnover where a lake turns
Yeah.
over. At early
Yeah.
turn of the year, the top
the
and the
oxygen.
bottom have different, and then all of a sudden warmer wind starts changing it. So you can push. The temperature can be different on one end of the lake to the other. So
Okay.
maybe you want to be at the top end of the lake because the wind is blowing and it's pushing all the cold water down to the end, and you wouldn't want cold water because it's ice out. But maybe it's pushing all the cold water at a time when you want it to be cold water, and then the food gets all pushed down to the one end. So
Right.
the wind blowing bank has got a lot more food blowing into
Yeah.
it. So a lot of people go to that when they're fishing from a bank. Go to the other end of the lake to have the wind at their back. I'd rather cast into the wind where
Because
all
the food and the fish and the
are-
bait.
Well, you're sort of now it's like, okay, so you can think about wind in two ways. Like one, the big picture. So it's like where on the lake based on all of this. Then it's like wind. Once you're in your spot, you can use wind as at your back to float like all
And
this
also that structure comes in. Oh, there's a point,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a wind blowing point. What is that like a river? It's like a rock. Puts
Yeah.
a seam on it.
Right.
Right.
So where are they going to be? Right.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
so if we're fishing from a boat, we do a lot of lock style, which we'll get into. But wind moves our boat.
Mm-hmm.
It hides our presence. Fish feel more comfortable being up. Food is being activated.
Yeah.
So wind is a good thing. And I think the more we do, like lock style or competitive fishing, we get a lot more comfortable in big wind, and you're not afraid of it. You want it. Like
kind of
like
nice.
the Scottish guys like the big waves and stuff like that.
And these
wow.
the drogue to just slow them down.
Yeah, so like a drogue is like a kind of like a sea anchor. It's like a parachute in the water. You can slow your boat down, and then you're just cruising along, covering fish, and but you're constantly casting in front of the boat, so they see your flies first. You're always on fresh fish, and you can be very strategic of kind of trying to locate that where the fish thing, because you can go, okay, worst case we'll just do a drift down this whole bank, see if we find any fish. Okay, we hit 5 in this one spot. Let's go back and fish that spot. The fish are sitting there. Yeah, so that's a really neat way to cover water. We saw it today. Like when the wind picked up, we were able to cover the lake
quickly
versus rowing around, try to fish this spot, row around, and your presence is covered and stuff like that. So lock style is a really great way of fishing that Canadians don't do very much of.
So if you show up to a lake and there's a decent wind and it's kind of overcast, like what's your first plan? Where are you gonna go? What are you gonna do?
Hit me with that one again.
If you show up to a lake and there's like a good wind, and it could be a lake like this, like the lake, the topography and stuff like that. I mean, there has to be some prior knowledge of the lake, right? So like, let's say today, there's a good wind blowing across the lake. Where do you start?
Let's see. I just think of a good answer to that. So for me, first of all, we'll take a look at same like. So is this has the wind been blowing this way for a while?
Yeah.
So my first one, okay, what's the wind blowing banks? I just want to know what that is. I would be, if I know the lake pretty good, at what time of year is it? So are they, and then do I see any fish moving? So my first thing is actually I'm just going to stare at the lake for a while. And just go, do I see any fish moving on top? The easiest way to find fish is they're moving on top. I would most likely set up, if I'm in a boat, on a drift that I can cover a long stretch that's going to go over some structure I know. So it's going to go over a point. It's and then going to end up in a wind-blowing bank or a bay. And I in my head, and I'm going to probably pick a technique that allows me to cover a lot of water fast, right? So that might be pulling or stripping flies or something, going, okay, it's windy. Fish are probably feeling pretty good right now. I think they're in the first 3-4 feet. I'm going to put on something, some confidence, pulling kind of streamer fly. It's like the woolly bugger kind of idea. Okay, I'm just going to cover water. My first drift is just, this is an intel gathering. And then in my head going, okay, if that doesn't work, what's the next phase? I'm going to probably go, okay, now I'm going to go deeper with that same technique.
Try it again,
deeper.
Right.
Okay, I'm getting down about 10 feet. That they don't want... They don't want a fly moved. I'm going to switch to something more static. After I would change locations a couple times just to see, but I would keep it that simple and then start going from there. Right. So
I like that.
But when I'm not catching, I'd be like, number one thing is, okay, try going deeper, and then slower, and then okay, I got to start rethinking something.
Rethinking the whole
Well, I think
presentation.
that's just like that right there, like broken down into like, a minute, like quick digest is really helpful, because I think people listening, I mean, this is going to be like a tip-filled, action-packed show. But like, you show up to a lake, there's a lot of wind, maybe it's a long lake. It's like, okay, you see some fish, kind of boiling. It's like, let's start over here and just like let the wind take us across as we fan across and try different techniques.
Yeah, and when we talked about today is I would teach a lot of Canadian anglers, don't be afraid of dry flies on a lake. So dry flies are killer on a lake. So again, think of a fish. I'm looking for food. I don't always have a conveyor belt like a river. Most of the food gets stuck in the meniscus or the surface tension of the water. There's always food on the surface of the lake. It's the most consistent area to get food. And so the only BC anglers argue me predation because of the birds. Like
they might be more scared. I don't know, because it's funny.
Listening to BC, I lived in BC. I beg to differ, but that's okay. We can have a disagreement. But
I think lots of people listening would have been in scenarios where you're on a lake and fish are just rising seemingly randomly around you. It's like, how the hell do I do this?
Yeah, so they're hard to deal with because they're moving. They have fins and they can swim pretty good. And so one thing, keep in mind, if there's a wind. So what we like we said today, a corduroy riffle, we say, which is a little bit of a little riffly, kind of a little bit of broken surface. Couple of reasons. Again, lock style, we don't have time to go crazy on lock style, but it's a moving boat. We're casting in front of a moving boat. So we know we're going to be covering a lot of water. And dry fly fishing is really easy. Put 2 or 3 flies on, space them 3 or 4 feet apart. Don't need a tapered leader because we're casting in front of a boat. Put a dry fly on the, we call it the top dropper, the one closest to your leader, something you can see, whether it be a post or something, you know,
kind of foam wing.
and then put 2 other flies behind it. River dry flies work really good. Kind of be smart. Take a look at the banks. And like, okay, the midges are probably size 14.
Yeah.
Put a size 14 on, whatever. Oh, I see some caddis.
Try to generally match,
but those small ones can be behind it. But put your first flies a little bit like an indicator, something they'll eat. But it'll always point you to your flies, and then you know the 2 behind it. If something rises, they'll just set.
Yeah.
So you're putting 3 flies down, and then so it's increasing your odds. But also cruising fish are looking for food, so they're hard to predict. But what you're going to do is cast every like 10 seconds. Yeah. So we did it today. You put the flies down, you give it about 8-10 seconds, pick it up, cast again, because if a fish was there, it was going to take it.
Yeah.
You're actually just trying to cover water. It's a really fun way to fish, but you will be amazed.
Yeah, Mitch, you were doing
all the
that
time, but it'll work really well.
It's really nice. You're just sort of plopping the fly, and then, you know, kind of a quick little skate because you might trigger something, and then plop it back
cast
down.
again, and it's always cast to a new area. Plus, your boat's moving, right? So it's a really
cool. It's almost like bomber fishing in a way, because you're just like, you're not letting that dry stay too long. And we said it in the boat today. Like we've always, it's a great point, Mitch. Like you're on a trout lake, you're watching them rise. You know that they don't stay in the same spot like they do in the river. That's like, how do you target them? This is a really great way to cover water and target these fish effectively.
Yeah, and then the
three flies system is pretty cool.
And then the next one is, I see trout swirling everywhere. They're not eating the dries. Okay, they're eating stuff that's right underneath the surface.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, how do we hold our flies back? We know where the fish are. They're 1 foot down. Great. Now can we catch them? So what the problem with a lot of people make is they put a heavily weighted fly. It's out of the zone too fast.
Yeah.
Right. So one way to put it, so not to confuse people, but if I'm pulling a fly really fast on a floating line, well, I can keep a fly in the first foot. I can just rip it back. What if they want it dead slow?
Yeah.
So they don't want the fly moved. Most stuff in still water is pretty static, like it's just floating around. They want it not moving a lot. Now, how are you going to hold that in one? No, if it goes under a foot, no fish is going to eat it. Yeah. So that's what kind of confuses people.
Well, this is where you start to get into all the techniques, different lines and different weighted
and
flies.
Techniques and what things called a washing line or a booby, which is a foam fly on the end. They put foam flies on the end of the line. Yeah. And I think the number one would be leaders is, you can fish 1 fly, 2 flies outside of, like, depending on regulations, up to 3 flies. And if you fish 3 flies, we call it a team. They're working as a team. So if you're using multiple flies, you may put call it a floating or a buoyant fly on the end or the point, and then you can hang smaller flies. So you essentially have a floating line that floats, buoyant fly at the end that barely sinks, and you put 2 small flies hanging there. Well, that's a pretty good way to hold
in a foot of water.
Whatever the hell you want in a foot.
Yeah.
You got 2 fish on one rig today?
Yeah.
It was sick.
That was awesome. Yeah.
We doubled up.
We doubled up.
Yeah. And then we were paying attention to what depth. Like you get a lot around 4 or 5 feet, which kind of made sense. But we saw a lot of fish on this top, and they were hard to catch. Yeah. Right. So
big time.
Yeah. And then the other thing we talk about in still water is when your flies are dropping. It's called fishing on the drop or whatever. A lot of food falls through the water column. So a technique is just letting your flies fall. But think of a goldfish tank. You throw food in there, it kind of flutters down flake style. They like that slow. They like that. Now, a fly that goes zipping past them because it weighs 300 pounds, they're just going to not eat it because nothing they want to eat goes like that. So it doesn't mean you don't fish a weighted fly. I just wouldn't fish it that way. Yeah. So there's another way of fishing going, well, how do I find the depth? Well, just put some lightly weighted flies on, let them go through and count where you're getting them. And
True.
Yeah. But a lot of it is that's the hard part. You're kind of going, okay, what depth was that?
Yeah.
So from a technique,
if you stop paying attention,
you got to start paying attention to how fast do my flies sink.
Yeah.
So a lot of people count them down and try to get, you're going, okay, I got a pretty good idea in my head. And that's either the fun or the frustration for some people.
Well, I think what's interesting too, like, we've talked dry flies, we've talked about like a washing line. That's the team system, hanging flies. Yeah. I think the cool thing, we were fishing the bung today. The style of indicator you had, in a way, helped me understand my depth You know, like we knew that the flies were at 3 and 6 feet on the leader.
Yeah.
But maybe you can explain a little bit like the tipping indicator, because once it tips, you know that you've got your flies, you know, at their max depth, whatever that max depth might be. But there were times where I knew I was going to hit almost halfway through the on the drop. You know, it's like I'm kind of like 3-4 seconds into the drop, and you know, right away when we were fishing that point when the sun was still low, it was pretty consistent.
Oh yeah.
I was like, I think I'm starting to expect fish at a certain count. You know.
Well, maybe start with what the bung is.
Yeah. So the bung is like, I think it's a British term. I don't know what it means. Hopefully it's not a bad word. Probably is. Probably is.
Those crazy
But,
Brits.
the bung is what we will call indicator or bobber fishing.
Yeah.
Right.
And so this is not to be confused with kind of what they do in the West Coast, which is that slip bobber kind of fishing. It's the same kind of, they put an indicator, they're putting it down with a single fly, like whatever depth they want. And when they set the hook, the bobber slips, and so they can land the fish.
Phil Rowley
Phil Rowley and stuff
going
like
on
that.
about
They're
that.
putting their forceps foot off the bottom. And
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like that. So for us, today we knew our fish were. We were pretty sure they were probably above 8 feet, or we were targeting fish in that, and we were like, okay. And so the bung it comes from competition fishing where we're not allowed to use actual indicators. So we came up with flies that have hooks in them that is a suspension device.
Yeah.
So it's the same as a bobber for everybody listening. But what I do is I take foam
Posts?
posts or whatever, like we call them booby foam or whatever if we're doing, but
Okay, so it'd be
essentially
like booby eyes.
cylindrical foam of different sizes and different lengths. I latch those to a hook or horizontally. So you just kind of latch it down horizontally, put your favorite dubbing in front of it, and have them in different lengths and diameters. And so what we set up today was we really were using that as our suspension device. And then what I was varying was 2 flies underneath it. Maybe we started at 3 and 6 and I ended up 4 and 8. But what was cool about that is, and those are weighted flies. Again, keep it simple, people. Try your favorite river flies, mops, eggs, natural stuff, put river nymphs. Yeah. Keep it simple.
Toss a squirmy.
And so what we're doing is hanging our flies at a specific depth. So we are committing, and that's why I like 2 flies. Okay, let's see if they're at 3 feet. Let's see if they're at 8. And when I teach people that, I'm like, well, start long. This is the only one I go bottom up, which I thought you went top down. I'm like, no, bottom up is because I can cut line off and go up rather than I can add it. So,
but at that point, you've already
gone.
You've already done. Yeah, you don't start with the bung.
But it's still idea of finding depth. But so we were being very surgical about depth. And what Aldo's talking about is that cylindrical piece of tubing or whatever will lay flat on the water while your flies are sinking. So what that first thing tells you is when your flies get to depth, it will pull that tube up so it sticks straight up like a what do they call that, pencil float. Yeah. So it kind of sticks up. So you get this little kind of sinking
really
up. So
good
a couple
indicator.
things that
oh my God, amazing indicator.
Yeah,
so
it's
you know
direction,
when you're
depth,
at depth. So as that gets to depth, it was tipping up, but Aldo was getting fish before it tipped up, so we knew they were eating it on the drop. So we were kind of going, maybe we're too shallow or not. But when it tips up, you know your flies are sitting at say 3 and 6 feet. The pencil float also would tell you if maybe we're sitting at 8 feet on our flies, but we're in 5 feet of water. It never tipped up. It was on the bottom.
Right. Yeah.
And then the other cool piece of it is because we didn't talk about this, but because it's cylindrical, there's very little resistance for the fish. So if I put a big circular bobber on that, there's a reason like buoys are round. That's hard to pull under. So that fish feels very little resistance. So when it eats it, it doesn't have to. So if you use kind of too big of a suspension device, especially a round one, it's hard to pull under the water.
Probably better.
So it's
set too.
So it actually is more effective because the fish doesn't feel it, and it's more sensitive to the strikes. Because a couple of times Aldo saw it just kind of quiver, and he set.
Yeah, you didn't even see it go under. It just did something strange, and you're like,
tipped a little weird. Right? So it is like a telecommunications device for your flies.
Amazing.
So it's not just, I don't like bobber fishing. There's a technique to that, and it can be absolutely.
I'm surprised
deadly.
It's not more common right now.
It's super common in competitive fishing. The only restriction of it is what the BC guys have to solve for is, you can only go as high as your top dropper, which is this bung, which is you're restricted about 10 to maybe 12, maybe 14 feet if you're really constricted.
Because it's a fly.
Because it's a fly. And so we have a hook in it. And so, as I said with the dubbing, you'd be amazed how many fish will eat that fly too.
But even if you just had it as an indicator, no hook, even just as an indicator, it's better than a bobber,
For sure.
Yeah.
But why not put a hook on it?
Oh, for sure.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And so, but the only thing is you're restricted to depth, but we're not normally fishing any deeper than 12, 14 feet.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So
but that's kind of the limitation of it.
Well, that's if anytime I'm using an indicator, that's what it's going to be now.
Yeah. And we didn't have it today, but they'll eat it.
For sure.
Because what they don't see the pencil part sticking out, they see the little dubbing underneath. So it just looks like a blob and like some fluffy, foodie thing in the surface.
We were talking about even for bass. It would be so sick.
100%.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, it worked. Well, sort of.
Yeah.
But it's so
a
that's a great
crayfish under
technique.
there,
And then what that technique is anchored in is the fact that it's presenting flies at a specific depth without moving them.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's static. So that's our static approach. And then so have a couple static approaches. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a consistent depth. We tried the washing line. We're very slow static approaches at varying depth. Because
Washing line.
That was like
What's
when
the
you have the
washing line?
three,
Yeah.
the three flies. Yeah.
And you were kind of keeping up with it very slowly.
The
but
washing
that was
line
slowly
is
sinking.
It's called washing line. It's like the floating on the point.
Yeah, it's floating on the point, so it holds your like clothes hanging from a washing line. You're holding.
Yeah.
Your
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is like a pretty typical stillwater rig in the sense of like, you've got whatever your different kind of line, whether the sink rate changes and like the taper changes, so that presents differently. But then in the leader, you've got a pretty long leader, right?
Yeah, we were talking about earlier with the floating fly on the top.
Yeah.
Long leader, so 5, like 5 feet, 5 feet, 5 feet, or 6 feet, 6 feet, 6 feet.
And they call the fly on the very end the point.
The point, and the other one's top dropper, middle dropper.
Yeah.
And then so when you're doing that, and then you can do off a floating line with that. I have tons of lines, but if you
So many lines you have.
that sink at different angles and depths and stuff like that. But just off a floating line, you can you put a buoyant fly on the point, which is the end one. That's going to keep it in the top. You put a heavy fly on that, it's going to go down. And so the reverse of that is put let's say a woolly bugger on that, and 2 other flies. Well, now you have 3 flies fishing at different depths.
Yeah.
The reverse way. So if you get every fish on your point fly that's your weighted fly when you're bringing it in, well, the fish are at deeper than you think. Okay, it's a 15-foot leader. I'm getting it halfway through. Okay, the fish are like 8 feet or something like that. But every fish is on that. You're like, okay, the fish are 8 feet. So that you just keep doing that if you want. But that's presenting 3 flies at different depths. The washing line is, okay, I know what depth they're at. I'm going to try to put 3 flies.
Now it's a pattern game.
It's just being gluttonous.
Now it's a pattern game. It's like
Totally.
they see.
It's just going, okay.
Well, it was cool, like you were saying, how they like the trolling people like do it, like where you have something really flashy off the back or the front, and then like something maybe more natural in the middle, and then like something between that.
Yeah. So what we
Give
did
them some
today is we
options.
thought again they were in the top 4 or 5 feet, so we know they're going to see it. We put a really bright pattern, one called a blob, on the top dropper. We put a really natural small chronometer thing in the middle, and then a damsel on the end. Okay, that looks like food. And then
Damsel on the point,
what Mitch could do is just fish it at different speeds and kind of mess around with it. If he's fishing it dead slow, it's a chronometer. If he's pulling it back fast, it's a damsel, and see which one they eat. So.
Is there a name for not the washing one, but the other one, the depth one?
I would just call that a standard.
Just a standard stillwater
rig. If you want the most standard rig of all, 555, 8 pound straight leader, 555.
3 flies at 555.
3 flies, and then you could live off that with a floating line pretty good for 90% of your fishing.
Okay.
Because I can keep it in the top, I can fish dries, I can fish.
I know what you're trying to ask, Mitch. What was the line called that sinks in the middle and not the top?
One?
Yeah.
So
that one was.
We used a bunch of different sinking lines. So what he was on a line called a sweep line.
Yeah. You're confusing the washing line with the sweep.
No. I get the washing line is all at the same depth, and then you've got
a
classic
matter what line
stillwater.
You put that on,
no, for sure.
Right.
Washing line is like the technique is everything's at the same depth, so it's a fly thing. Now it's like the other stillwater classic is, you're fishing more vertical to figure out the depth. And then, once we get into lines, it's like
it's endless.
Insane how many lines you have.
So there's kind of 2 ways you're doing it. So way back to our start, where the fish, what we're trying to figure out, okay, we think there's fish here, what depth are they at?
Yeah.
And then how they want it. Bung is one way to find depth. That standard cast is a good way because I'm presenting flies at 3 different levels. Right now I'm just playing a depth game, and then I'll try to hone. And then once we know the depth,
maybe switch to a wash.
Now the pattern starts to get, okay, now we're going to switch to
A sweep.
The sweep line was so cool. The taper is interesting. It's like basically the belly of the line sinks.
Like a U. It sinks like a U for everybody.
Like,
you know, and we will say, you'll hear terms like die 3, die 5. That just means it sinks at 3 inches per second, 5 inches per second, 7 inches per second. We were doing a die 5
Yeah, those sweep lines are so cool.
Sweep is the middle, sinks in a U.
Yeah.
So if you think of a density compensated line, means it's trying to sink in a straight line.
Yeah.
Right. So that's great because it's direct contact to the fly, and your flies are, you kind of do whatever the hell you want on the end of it, but it's going to be straight line to the fish.
You know where it is.
The sweep line, kind of famous in the die 5, but it sinks in the middle like a U. So if I put buoyant fly on the point or anything like that, it's going to pull my line straight down, reverse.
So sick.
Reverse, and then it's going to come around in a U as I'm bringing it up, and it's going to come up with those back 3 through multiple depths. So you put your flies, technically, a fish are at 4 feet. You put 3 flies past them at 4 feet, and then you bring them back.
The rocks.
But so you cover them twice. One going down,
one coming up.
I know, it's amazing, and you're like you're covering all 4 feet, not just 4 feet. You're covering all 6 feet.
You go
not just
3 flies.
You know what I mean?
3 flies,
yeah,
different ones.
But it's like now you're fishing all that depth. So if you do get a boiling fish, you know they're not just the guys eating at 6 feet or 4 feet.
Nope.
Like,
and then what messes people up is your deepest fly is the one closest to your fly line.
Say that again?
Your deepest fly is the one closest to the fly line.
Yes, because
it
goes down.
Sinking. Yeah,
it's a trip, but it's a really cool technique.
It's like I tell people, it's like reverse bung.
Yeah.
Reverse bung is the way to think of it. So you've got a buoyant fly close to the surface, one in the middle, going very vertically down, and then it comes around at an angle, and it kind of accelerates. So you get this little kick, and then it comes up. That came from competition fishing, but
that came from competition fishing.
Yeah, and they use it a lot to find the depth.
Dude, for real. I mean, like, if you ever wanted to fish the water column like this, you could do that.
Yeah. Like a sound wave.
You can't really do that with, like, if I was thinking traditional fishing, you could, if you got a really long cast, you could rip a crankbait that swims down and floats back up and swims down. It's kind of like that.
Bass guys would love it.
Yes.
Because it goes down, and then it goes back
It's
up.
amazing.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah. And then if you pull it fast, as you said, it just fishes like a normal. Yeah. So if I just ream it back, it doesn't do the U because I'm not letting it do it.
Before we get off the sweep line thing, that specific one was an airflow.
It was an airflow die 5 sweep. I'm sure
sweep.
Other companies have them, but that's the famous airflow die 5.
That's the famous one.
That's the famous one because the 3 people tried. It's okay, but a 3 doesn't give
not enough action. Yeah.
A 7 is a little much
too fast.
Yeah, so like I tell people, that's the one where the 5 is kind of the sweet deal.
Unless maybe you're the fish they're feeding in 20 feet of water.
So when we won the Commonwealth in Quebec,
flex.
We were this is years ago. They were at 20, 30 feet.
Wow.
We were fishing 20 something feet.
Yeah.
We were fishing sweeps for that very reason. Exactly what you said, because we figured out the count rate to get down. But you could, when you got there, you put 3 flies versus getting 1 fly to them. So you went boop, 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 and then we had it pretty dialed. We had a good team. So it would just get there 3 flies, and then it would kick right back through them with 3 flies.
Crazy.
So that's when it was and it was like some insane count. We had it on our watch. Okay, count to 31 or something stupid like that, and then give it a pull, and it would just go whoop right,
so
just
sick.
Right through them.
And that's when you were hitting them.
Cool. Yeah. And so that was
wild.
A differentiator. We would say that was that took a lot of work, but that
dialed
showed,
angling,
but,
brother.
For sure.
But it was right back to we know they're at this depth.
Yeah.
How do I present my flies at that depth for the maximum amount of time? Was actually a sweep line. Because you can't bung it at 30 feet. Now, you could with a slip bobber or something, maybe, if you cast it, but you
can't bung 30 feet because of the wind and everything else.
Good luck.
And the leader, like casting the leader would be crazy.
Insane.
Okay, I got to get 30 feet. The other way they do it in BC and other places is you put like a heavy sink line and you just fish it straight down off an anchored boat. Right.
That'll you're just jigging at that point.
You're jigging it, but you got it's 30 feet. I can't do that in competition fishing, but you would work. You know.
We should take you on our next Stillwater trout trip if we ever have another contract. You want to go? You want to get stuck with us in the woods for a week?
Right. But these are the concepts. If you're just going back to just like same thing we talk at the Franklin Club all the time is just it's the same that travels well. That
should work.
You're trying to solve a mystery of. But you could throw anything at them at let's say they're 30 feet. you're not catching a fish until you get to 30 feet because that water temperature, they're not moving past it.
No.
Right.
It's not so much a question of fly. I mean, once you figure them where they are, then it could be a question of flies.
But mainly fly design.
Fly design to again
what's
play
it
with
doing? Like, so does it have foam? Is it a bead head? However, is it a bead head? Like, because it's probably going to be a leech or a damsel or a chronomid.
I mean, if you put an orange blob slowly in front of a fish at 20 feet, like why would it be like it's going to see like an egg?
And they've also said like fish are genetically programmed to eat eggs, so they're not asking why did the egg get here.
They
don't have a chicken or the egg debate in their head. Like, hey, there's an egg, I'm going to eat it. Hey, I got an egg at 30 feet.
It's like me and Mitch at a diner.
Like,
we don't ask where the egg came from. We're just eating it.
You just eat it. Hey, there's an egg in the corner on the floor. You eat it.
Totally.
So there's there's probably people listening to this, or well, hopefully, you're living in, or you have a cottage, or you're camping in Halliburton. Mitch is moving the Ottawa area, lots of trout lakes. You have not thousands. You have dozens of cassettes with dozens of sinking lines. But if you just wanted to kind of start dialing this in, you're like, oh my God.
Do I got to do that? Do I got to get
do I have to get 20 lines?
30 lines.
30 lines? Okay.
Yeah, so I think I got like 25 lines, which is like a problem. Right? So, but
again, if you were...
so for normal people,
it's
fine.
No, it's awesome. You opened your case, it was like, fuck yeah, let's go.
Let's go. But so great question. So the number one best line still is a floating line. It's always a floating line. Yeah. Floating line, you can go slow, you can go fast, we can vary the weights of the flies.
You can fish the bung.
So if you add one line, 90% of people have but I think people go a little undergunned. Like I would sort 6 or 7 because you're casting in the wind. You want to have a little more power. Don't go with your 4 or 5s.
There's not really a reason to, right?
No, you want to be able to cast in the wind, turn over flies, land fish quickly. Some lake fish are big.
They've got a lot of room to fight.
6 or 7 weights.
A lot of places to swim.
And a lot of the UK guys fish 8 weights, exclusively.
Really?
Yeah. For dries too. Yeah. So
makes sense. 9-foot 8 weight. Well, maybe a 10-foot 8 weight.
And I like a 10-foot if you can. 9-foot will work, but 10-foot keeps the flies away from you.
Mitch is an 8-weight purist.
Yeah, go for it. 8 weight's perfect.
Yeah.
I can't see why any of those fish would.
Multiple world champions from the UK fish exclusively 8 weights.
So it's not a joke anymore.
Well, some of these fish get it.
No, and you can huck it. Right. So and then
exactly.
also you put we're putting a bung, which is a foam tube with 2 heavily weighted flies. Mm-hmm. You want something that can cast it.
Well, the 7-weight I was fishing today, like that 10-foot, it was pretty.
It was a powerful
hefty,
stick.
Which was
perfect. Hey, you're casting so well, man.
Well, so you got the floating line, right? And then so back to where what's my next is probably want to keep something in the top 3 or 4 feet. Mm-hmm. So they would call it an intermediate line. Yeah. So if you look up intermediate lines, you'll see these clear lines like the Rio Lake, or if you're really going old school, slime line. Those clear, they're camo lines. Those fish sink at about 2 inches per second. Okay. And if you want to be a fancy, there's ones called fast intermediates. They're 1.5 inches per second. So something in that 1.5 2 is a pretty good one, right? So that means that I'm pulling buggers, but I want to pull it in the the floating line pulls it up pretty high. Right. Yeah. Especially when I want to fish kind of those intermediate lines can do a lot. Yeah. And then your last, something in the 3 to 5 range. There's probably a debate people would have right now is whether I have a die 3 or a die 5.
I'm kind of thinking 5.
Right?
Yeah, I like a 5 myself.
If you have the intermediate line,
if I would go floater intermediate
5
3-5 if you were.
Wanted a full kit.
If you're just going, okay, and I probably can live. And then, I really need add one, add a 7, honestly, because now I've got all the...
Totally.
Because I'm fishing and I got to get right down super fast. You probably use the 7 the least, but it's still...
Something you have in your arsenal.
You use it, right?
There's many moments.
I can lake fish the rest of my life. Yeah. And then I want to get fancy. Okay, now I'm going to get a sweep line at the 5. Yeah. I'm going to get... a hover line at a 1/2 inch per second. Yeah. I'm gonna but those.
That's when you start to get so nuanced.
Then you're in a whole different game.
Yeah,
but you would live.
Well, now you're Team Canada.
You would do, you would do really really well. Yeah. With but that an intermediate, a 3 or a 5, and a floater. Mm-hmm. It depends where you fish. Like I like 5s because I fish a lot of deeper stuff. And I can do a lot with it. There's a lot of guys who like 3s. Right?
And then it might be obvious, but we're not talking tapered leaders. You're just doing straight.
Keep it simple. Yeah. The only time I use tapered leaders is if you're fishing off a bank in the wind and stuff like that. But I would just and again, 6 or 8 pound line. Keep it pretty simple. Fluorocarbon sinks. It's a benefit.
Yeah.
We are fishing dries on fluorocarbon. People are like, oh, it's going to sink it. We don't leave it long enough to worry about it.
Right.
Just get 6. And like, I'm very big on diameters when I'm fishing a river. Just, I don't know, get your 6-pound Seaguar, get your 8-pound, whatever. Yeah. Have a couple, and maybe to 4-pound, 6-pound, 8-pound. Big spools, like just go to your Bass Pro Shop or Drift and grab a big spool of that stuff. You're good to go, right? So very simple because we're fishing just 5 foot, 5. And again, you could also fish 2 flies. 5 feet to your first one, 7 to your next one. That's a 12-foot leader. Yeah. I want to fish 1 foot fly, put about a 10-foot leader.
Right. Don't
easy.
Have to overthink
they're
it.
Easy. They
100%.
turn out, and then that's the simple answer is just find and that will be enough. Simplicity is the key because the rest is you're losing focus on what I should be solving, which is
just to keep it simple. And
we had some break-offs today, so we went to heavier.
Yeah.
We went up.
Yeah, sorry.
We just went, that's too light.
Yeah,
so, okay, and can I get away with it? They're pretty forgiving on again, we're not competition fishing. The fly movement is fine on 6 or 8 pound. People will get in arguments on how supple it is and stuff, and we do all that, but find one you like.
Sure.
Just keep it.
Don't sweat it too much.
Yeah, unless you want to sweat it, like I do. I have a multiple, but you don't need to do that.
Right.
You'll
catch fish.
That's the rabbit hole of.
That's when you start getting into.
That's
it
when
more,
you're trying to catch fish on demand, right? But again,
Right.
for simplicity's sake, whatever your favorite tippet or material is, buy big spools of it though.
Yeah.
Don't go with those little
dinky spools.
Big
go
boys.
to the kind of dark side of the spin fishing.
Yeah.
You want
you keep them in your boat bag
spool because you're making 15-foot leaders like all the time, and it doesn't. It sounds like it's a big deal. I don't think you guys found that hard to handle at all.
No. Especially with a 10-foot rod. No.
You're also not like you shouldn't be putting like 30 false casts into this.
No.
So
you're just trying to get it up.
And you're fishing closer. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah. Especially with the bung, you are fishing closer to the boat than I expected.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You're not like launching 50-foot casts. It's like 35, 40-foot casts.
People can read about Lockstyle. We had the boat moving. We're casting in front of it. We're sitting down. We're stealth.
True.
So, it was good. It was a lot harder when we're just rolling around.
I really want to go stillwater fishing more now. I'm very stoked on it all. Yeah. You got me excited about it.
Yeah, it feels less mysterious now.
Oh,
because I feel like I think that's always the thing. Was like, we control woolly buggers. Yes, we've caught fish before, but it never felt like overly scientific in a way. Like, you read a river, you start catching fish, you don't catch fish in a river. You're like, oh, I understand why even when you don't catch fish in a river, you're like, I think I can understand why I didn't. Yeah. If I didn't catch fish in a lake, I'm always leaving being like, it's because I don't know what the F I'm doing.
Yeah. No, so this is great, man. I mean, thank you so much for taking us through it.
Yeah. After 175 episodes. Yeah. Thanks for coming back on.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any kind of parting words of wisdom or where people can find you or the Franklin Club or Team Canada?
First I'll thank the Franklin Club for hosting us today. And a great opportunity for us to.
Of course. Totally. Yeah, it was amazing.
Great facility. We're sitting in the lodge right now. There's rooms here. It's fantastic, right? So
that's great.
It's a great place to learn. And I mean, just for us to be able to do that today. So my Stillwater game has gone double because I have a playground that's unbelievable to practice. So that's where I like to pay it forward. So my gig is merely around education. So you see me from Into the Backing, or you can look me up online. But my gig is I like to teach people, kind of want to learn internationally, this kind of stuff. So if people ever want to learn, reach out to me. I'm happy to teach people, and what I can do with the Franklin Club, which is amazing, is that they let me teach people here as well. So it's a great experience.
Even non-members.
Yeah, so non-members get
that's a big thing.
So they're very, and they've been a great partner of Fly Fishing Canada. So they let us practice here. So the members are pretty accommodating to let me, take some.
That's amazing.
That's
amazing.
Definitely,
you saw today a day here. You probably learned.
Oh my God, you'll learn everything.
A lot.
I'm frothing at the mouth.
I'm gonna say it again. It travels well.
Yeah.
So maybe we did a few techniques today. We could go dial those in. So it's a great.
Oh, like I was saying, you could do this for bass. Like the techniques you teach us today, I could do for smallmouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it travels well for other trout, and
you could say
it's less scary, right?
We've merely just hit the surface.
Yes,
We've
we did.
only just
wow.
begun.
Yeah,
You're a great teacher.
Yeah, thanks, Ian.
Thanks for taking us out.
And thanks for supporting the show for
Thank you guys as well.
Many years.
8
You
years.
guys have been great as well. It's been fun, and we'll have to do this again sometime
Yeah.
very soon.
Next up,
Thank
Steelhead.
You. Thank you, Franklin Club.
Thank you, Franklin Club.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
And we're back after hearing some pretty in-depth Stillwater trout fishing chitter chatter. Let's get at her. How you doing there, you son of a bitch?
Wow. I'm good. I love that show. I thought, just Ian has such a wealth of knowledge. Like, he came on, I think we mentioned it while we're talking to him 175 episodes ago, and we learned all about his life and how he got into fly fishing and a little bit about how he got into competitive angling.
Yeah.
But that was 2018. So, even I'm sure, well, not I'm sure, Ian's definitely amassed a bunch of knowledge from all of his traveling and fishing, even within that time frame. So it's cool to get the Stillwater download from him. And
Yeah, I mean, he's an HCA, a hardcore angler. And
Oh, yeah.
You could tell when he opened up his boat bag and he had all those different Stillwater lines, and you're just like, whoa, that's pretty awesome. You've got all this like just at the ready.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's funny
he's
because
wicked angler. No,
it's funny because it's a bunch of stuff, that we used to, working adrift and stuff used to sell, but I didn't really know that much about.
Yeah.
Like I knew line profiles and stuff, but I never really like used them all the time,
I mean, it starts to get into the nitty grits, like I think he is a competitive angler, so he's always optimizing his setup to be about speed, efficiency, maximum catchability. Like he's thinking about fishing in a different way, right? Like it's cool in that sense where it's like he's like really trying to dial in the nitty gritties to catch as many fish as he can, and
you said, the nitty grits.
The nitty grits, and it's like I don't think. Well, we're not competitive anglers, so it's like I definitely haven't been getting into nitty grits. But now with Stillwater fishing, some of those techniques that he was talking about for competitive angling, I'm definitely going to apply because it's just
totally
like, of course, you can just drift across a lake with a sinking 5 and like a woolly bugger on, and probably eventually catch a fish, But if you do these things that Ian was talking about, your chances are going up crazy much higher, So
totally. And I think with the drifting, the woolly bugger thing, it's like, yes, you're right. You will probably encounter a fish, but you don't know why.
One day. You don't know why, and it could be. It's kind of more of a random thing, I would guess. Like, well, maybe not random, but you know what I mean. Like you're. It's like you got to be there on that day that they're at that depth, because he's talking about finding depth and stuff. So it's like, yeah, sure, you line it up on a day where they're at that depth and they're hitting on that type of retrieve. Yeah,
totally.
But you could be there on many days where it's not like that. So
and you just like shrug your shoulders, like I don't know.
You're like, I don't know. This worked last Saturday, so now you know how to switch it up. And I was trying to pick his brain as much as possible because I'm definitely going to be doing some Stillwater trout next spring.
You've got a lot more around.
Maybe this fall.
You've got a lot of lakes around you.
Yeah, for sure. So it's going to be Stillwater o'clock. Yeah. Watch out, Brian Chan. Watch out, Team Canada. I'm coming for that title. Just me.
It'll be fun. You and Troup just beating on the world,
just duking it out. Cool. What else we got going on? So yeah, that was a fun day we spent. We got a fun little trip coming up with Josh Courage Fly Fishing here in Ottawa soon.
Yes. Yeah. Again, this comes out the 15th. On the 17th.
Yeah.
Will be.
Yeah. Next Friday. Yeah.
Well, I'll be getting into town next Friday, and then we're fishing with them on the 18th and 19th.
Mm-hmm. Musky time. I'm stoked, man.
Yeah, and I'm actually in Temagami next week as well, doing a little project with Mitch Beaumile, but we're gonna get some fishing in.
Ooh, that's pretty fun. Are you guys staying? Are you gonna see Rick?
Yeah, we're all shooting this thing together.
Oh my god, fun!
Yeah. Shooting a little thing for Tourism Ontario.
You say that's next week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to be there from the 14th to the 16th, come home on the 16th, and then repack, and then get to Ottawa on the Friday.
You're all over the place, eh? You're a little, what do they call it? Hop, skip, and a jumper.
That's what they call me.
What else we got going on? What else we got going on?
That's pretty much it, man. Like, go up to Temagami, see if we can't wrangle a few, late season pike.
Yep.
And then come see you for some fucking prime season muskie.
Mm-hmm.
The
Must be a
temperature
clock.
today, it's October 9th right now. The temperature today is beautiful. It's very cool. It makes me feel like fall's finally here because it's been in the
It's cold.
high 20s. For
Oh my God.
for you Fahrenheit people, that's the mid 80s.
It's craziness,
And
man.
it's just hot for October. That's hot.
Dude, it was like 30 degrees the other day. I was like, oh, like when I was moving, I was like dying. It was so hot out. It's like October and it's 30 degrees Celsius. I mean, geez Louise, Papa Cheese.
Yeah, geez Louise, Papa Cheese is
Brutal. Let's announce the sunglass winner. People have been waiting long enough.
Okay, here we go.
We had people comment on episode 200 with their favorite episodes. And thanks everybody for commenting. And thanks for having a favorite episode. That means a lot. We've got the sunglasses here, the Costas up for grabs, and we've put all the names into artificial intelligence, and it picked a random winner.
Wow.
And that winner is, are you ready for this?
Wow.
Wow. The comment was, congrats on hitting 200. Thanks for always being such a positive crew in the fly fishing world. Always a great listen on the way to work. It's hard to choose a favorite episode. Love all the trip episodes, but one that comes to mind is episode 6. The fly versus bats competition was a fun one. That's pretty cool. Wow, what a
That was a deep dive.
deep dive. That was a fun episode. And the winner, Lost Waters Fly Fishing. Lost Waters Fly Fishing on YouTube. Thank you so much for commenting. You won the shades that Aldo's wearing right now.
It's awesome. If you're listening to the show, great. If not, we're going to comment on that comment to let you know that you've won.
Mhm.
But if you are listening to this, before we comment, email us at info@sofly.ca with your shipping details, and we will send you the glasses that are on my face right now. I'll wipe them down beforehand.
Boom. Well,
because the bridge of my nose is a little olive oily.
ew. Olive oily. Well, yes. Yeah,
What do you mean, ew?
you are Italiano.
We're both of the Mediterranean variety.
Of the Mediterranean.
Mhm.
Yes, from down under.
Yep, that's what they call us.
Going on down to Portugal, a little South America. Was that Arrested Development? Okay, that's great. That's great that Lost Waters got the shades. I'm happy for you, and thank you for commenting and listening. Everybody, thank you for listening. That's another episode. Ian, thanks for having us. Franklin Club, thanks for having us. That's it.
Great times. Yes, thank you so much to everybody at the Franklin Club, Ian, Emma, for coordinating this whole thing, and
Emma.
thanks everybody.
Thank you, everybody. That's it for me, Mitch. Aldo.
Bye.
Take care.
Come here.